Okay, if you got one of these Karchers and it's wrecked, don't worry. It's not the first one. These things wreck all the time. Okay, first thing you want to do is check if it's wrecked before you go pulling it apart, because I'm going to show you how to diagnose and pull it apart and fix it. Okay, so before you go pulling it apart, you're going to try and bleed it. Plug this into the water supply, don't turn it on. Turn the water supply on and remove the trigger. Let the water run for 1 minute. Anyways, once the minute's up, screw the trigger back in, try it on then. It usually cleans out all the air bubbles in the system. If that doesn't work, most likely internal. So what you need to do is pull it apart. First thing you need to do is take this clip off. Most models are very similar, so even if you don't have a 399, if it looks similar to this, it's most likely similar inside. So what you want to do is grab a screwdriver, pop it in the side, and twist it, and the side should pop off. Next section. This. You're going to unscrew it, give it a little tap. That whole thing pops out. A little tap. Next, that comes off. Alright? Then you want to get to the back of it. I'll lift it up. You need one of these hex and an Allen key to fix it. Now there's screws here, 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 and 2 down there, 2 here, and then the back cover should come off. I've already undone them, so I'm going to flip it back over. Once you've undone all the screws, flip it back this direction. You'll need to pull this off, like so, and unscrew this here. After that, the whole front cover should come off fairly simply. Down there. Okay, next, you've got 2 more hex screws in here. These ones I haven't undone, to save you time, sorry. 1 and 2. This is holding the whole unit in those 2 little hex. There's actually 4 holding the whole unit in place, but the other 2 came off with the cover. Once they're out, you should be able to pull the whole unit out. Now, make sure the plug is unplugged. This you can put down. You don't no longer need that. Okay, this is pretty much the unit. Okay, make sure you do not plug it in while it is out of the unit. Safety reasons, this will spin around and could chop off your finger. Do not plug it in and test it out. Next, after taking out of its case, you've got 4 bolts here that you must undo. They're with the Allen key, but they sort of seize in there over time. So what you need to do is, you can do it by hand, but it's best if you put a bar on it, and then you can snap them, and that gets it off easily. I've already previously done this, so I'm going to undo all these. Now, I'm going to go on with diagnosing your problem. You're going to either have 2 problems with these. It's either going to be pulsating, or it's going to have no power. It's going to have a lot less power than what it used to. Or it could have both. Now explain the difference and what parts you need to look at for these 2 issues. Now, a general unit like this will take about 10 to 15 minutes for a person to pull apart, and about equivalent time to put it back together. Okay, now that's off. This whole thing will pop off. Okay. Okay, that's something else that you need to look out for. When you're putting it back together, make sure this little thing goes, I'll lift it up to the camera, it's heavy. See this little thing here? Make sure that slides back underneath here. Alright, have a good look at that. Have a look before you pull it out. It needs to go in around there. Because what will happen is, you put it all back together, and just by steering it back on, it sits underneath it, and when you go to turn it on, nothing will happen. As soon as when you put it back together and you turn it and nothing happens, you know you've done that. So you've got to pull it all back apart again. Okay, so I'll explain the pulsing first. If you're pulsing, what it's doing is it's losing pressure in here, and so it's thinking you're using the trigger, so it's giving more pressure in. But when it builds up the pressure, it switches off. Then it loses pressure again, and it builds it up, loses, builds, and that's what's causing the pulsing. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Caused by a leak, maybe on the seal, maybe there's a crack in the plastic here. Loss of power, it ends up coming down to this thing. It's called the cylinder head. Now, after removing off the control head, that's this, you just lift up on the cylinder head, like so, jiggle around a little. Okay, and that's the cylinder head, right here. I actually got my old one here, so I should have left that on. Okay. Now what happens is, in here, there's these little valves, alright? And they tend to wear out over time and get little dirt in them and wreck. But what mostly wrecks in these valves are these little plastic rubbers, these little seals, and they go in here, and these little pistons in here just pop up and down, and they pump water into there. Now what happens is, if those seals are wrecked, these are my old ones, they tear like this. See that? And therefore you lose power, so you need to replace them. Problem is, Karcher don't sell these rubbers just by themselves. You'll need to buy the whole new cylinder head. Lucky they're only $30 for one of these, or $20 depending if you buy it online. So if you're losing in power, you might as well buy the whole unit, chuck it in there, you'll gain your power back. So you just push it on there nice and tightly, doesn't matter which way it goes, just make sure it's nice and good on, and there's no little gaps in there or any rubbish, or else it'll lose the pressure and do the pulsating. So if you've lost power, you do that. Now, after replacing that and you put on the cylinder head and it's still pulsating, even though you've got power, that pulsating can cause some damage to the cylinder head, making it crack and do damage to the seals. So you want to fix the pulsating up pretty quick. And the pulsating is caused by a little leak from the seal, or mostly likely you've got a little microscopic crack in here that's leaking. Also, before you go pulling all this apart, you should also check all of your little connections here, because if you're leaking from one of these seals, like this seal here, it's going to be losing pressure and it's going to be doing the exact same thing, pulsating. So check your seals there, and also your other seals that go here. If they're not leaking, it comes down to the control head, and that's this thing here. Cylinder control. And you can pull it apart, clean it. I tried mine, doesn't work. I'm going to replace it, and that'll fix my pulsating. Now, how to disassemble this cylinder head? When you get to this, as I explained before, first you want to get this metal casing off by tapping it like that. It pops out here. Next stage, once this metal cap's off, you can pull it off like this. Okay. Next stage, you want to take this little triangle section off, just by twisting around, and it comes off. Don't lose the spring on the inside. Don't lose it. Just place it up down carefully. Okay. Next, you want to take this section off. You try to pull it out, you think you're going to break it, so get a screwdriver in there, like so, just in between there and the plastic, and just give it a little twist, side to side, and it pops right out, like so. There we go. Okay. Next stage, you want to remove the Allen. No, rush it. Put your Allen key back in this side of the cylinder head, and you can give it a little tap, or I'll just go like that, and this section will come out. Don't lose it. Put it to the side. Next stage, you can't forget, when swapping over to the new cylinder head, that's this one here, this little rubber in here. There's a little rubber in here that you must remove. Be very careful that you don't wreck it. And there it is. You need that. If you don't put it in, you're going to be leaking, have the same issues as before. Next, remove the key little hex screw here. There's a little screw on the back of it. You got to watch it, you don't lose that either. And coming to this, you got to be careful you don't lose a lot of little pieces. Okay, pop that out, screws out, put that up here.